Hey, this is Tiqqle, and this is my Elemental Shaman Shadowlands guide, basically going over everything you need to know about Shadowlands, including all the systems, a little bit of tips and tricks as you're leveling with different builds that I recommend. We're going to go over my Covenant recommendations, the Soulbind choices, the Conduit choices. I'm also going to show you the Google Doc I made that goes over all of this for Elemental Shaman, Enhanced Shaman, Resto Shaman. It also gives you areas where you can give me feedback, either on Twitch, on Twitter, on Discord, so that we can make this the best guide and it can evolve over time. Now, the other thing I'll point out is that I also talked to you about a few builds that I've been using in PvP and in PvE, things that I personally like. These aren't based off sims right now. They will be once the sims are publicly available, but right now they're just based on my months of testing on the beta, which means that it probably will be wrong once everybody is out there and able to sim things, do the raids, do all that stuff. I'll also show you the resources area of our Discord channel where you could go and check out all the different things. We have stuff about Renown, where you get legendary recipes, different videos that I have up, the Icy Veins guides that I've made, all that stuff. And most of these are from questions that have been asked of me during streams, and definitely come by every day, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be streaming a lot for the launch of Shadowlands into the first few weeks, and then we'll go back to the usual schedule. But this is the leveling guide that you guys have been asking me about. If I was going to level as Ellie, what would I use? Well, a lot of it has to do with mobility. I'm using Spirit Wolf. I'm using potentially Windrush Totem if I'm feeling confident about survivability. Spectral Recovery. These are going to give me upwards of 40% movement speed when I'm in Ghost Wolf form just running around, especially with Windrush Totem, which is kind of a meme, but it's kind of cool. I also went Echoing Shock, Ice Fury, Echo of the Elements, because those are going to be the biggest damaging abilities I'm going to be using. Ice Fury specifically so I can keep mobile as I'm questing and tagging mobs with Frost Shocks that are empowered. And Stormkeeper, because it's a 1-minute cooldown, that will be nice to have, just blasting enemies. Now, if you're going to be leveling in War mode, I recommend going Lightning Lasso, because that can CC a mob and let you get away. It also does actually pretty good damage still. Spectral Recovery, like I said, for mobility. Swelling Waves for healing, but you can also swap that out with Counter-Strike Totem. Counter-Strike Totem does work against mobs. It doesn't do as much damage as you may think, but it does add you additional damage, especially if you have a bunch of mobs that are all hitting you, reflecting damage on themselves. You can heal yourself. So that's just a few different ways. So that's the build that I recommend going. Remember, as an Ellie Shaman now, our #1 damaging ability is going to be Lava Burst. Lava Burst is going to do so much damage. You're going to that's why I went Echo of the Elements instead of Earthen Rage, because you're going to be casting Lava Burst. Just make sure the Flame Shock's up and you'll be cracking them. On to the next part. For Covenants, I'm going to show you the Google Doc. I'll put a link to this down in the description. Check it out. Definitely is my opinion. Just to reiterate, if you want to know what kind of where the best, what's the truth though, what's the best stuff, that probably won't even be available until a few weeks out, or even when we start seeing the raid logs. So let's go ahead and just start looking at this. I mean, what I did is I basically, if you don't know, Covenants are one of the main systems in Shadowlands. You basically have to align with one of the 4. When you align with one of the 4, basically you get 2 different abilities. One is based on your class, or I should even say your spec, and then one is based on the Covenant that you picked. So Kyrian, Venthyr, Necrolord, Nightfey. It also will impact where you're doing your dailies, your weeklies, to get Renown and other things, and we have guides on that in the Discord. Check the links below. But what I did here is I basically assessed each of the ones, and I'm just going to shoot to the right, to the end. I think Ellie is the best for 1 to 3 targets, 5+ targets, because that's like a raid situation, a Mythic Plus situation, or add heavy fight, and then PvP. I think Necrolord is the go-to for Ellie. Now, I want to strongly stop there and recommend to you, go invest all of the other Covenants. Try them out. See what you think, because I recommend, don't always go for the best. Go for what you enjoy the most. Maybe you like the Nightfey aesthetic. Maybe you want to be soul shape form. Maybe you like the Kyrian angel wings on your back. Remember, there's the different transmogs for your back. All those different things you consider and you make your choice. I recommend, if you want the answer of which one's the best, I say Necrolord, but like I said, all the other ones are there. Now, we do have some damage testing that I did over 3 minutes for 1 target, maximum targets, and all these other combinations down here. But what I want to do now is I want to show you what all of the Covenants look like very quickly so you can see what they do. Don't forget, if you're multi-speccing, it could be a little bit different for you what you choose to do, and that's why I recommend looking at all this and kind of putting it together. If you have questions on my recommendations, come by Discord, come by the stream, and I'll give you my recommendation, but I'd really think that you should also look for yourself. The ability Chain Harvest is what's going to hit 5 targets, and then it's also going to heal 5 targets. So you'll see it bounces around, hits 3 targets here because there are only 3 targets, and then it reflects to just heal me because there's only me here. If there's others, it would bounce around. But it actually does the same amount of damage to all those targets and heals us for the same amount. And based on the crit, if it crits, it'll actually reduce the cooldown. So that's what that one is. And for Vesper Totem, you're going to press the ability. It'll allow you to place the totem down, and then the next 3 offensive abilities will pop it for AoE damage, damaging up to 6 mobs. You can relocate it and then pop it, once, twice. And then also if you use a healing ability, including dropping healing stream, it will pop an AoE heal 3 times. Again, you can move it whenever you want, and then you can pop it 3 times, and that's how that one works. For Necrolord, my recommendation, basically what it does is if you put up Flame Shocks on multiple targets, what Primordial Wave will do is it actually will put up another Flame Shock. So I put 2 Flame Shocks up, now I'll put up a 3rd Flame Shock. With Primordial Wave, it'll give me this buff. That means the next Lava Burst I use will then be spread for free to all those other targets that have Flame Shock on them. This is extreme. The reason I recommend this is you get a ton of value because you're getting Maelstrom generation across the board. You're getting crits across the board, potentially overloads across the board. It's a little hard to quantify because the max number of Flame Shocks you can have out, but it is it's my recommendation for PvE and even for PvP, even for Mythic Plus, because of the how smooth it allows you to keep things going, and particularly because of the Lava Surge proc rate was reduced in Shadowlands, so this helps with that. And then to show you how Night Fae works. Night Fae basically is a channel. It affects 1 target doing max damage, or if you do up to 4 targets, it'll split that damage. Let's go ahead and jump into game. You can basically use Spirit Walker's Grace as well to be able to use it on the move as Ellie, but otherwise it would break if you're moving when channeling, if you're on Enhance or Resto. So that's that. I just wanted to show you those. I stick by my recommendations for these. It's my opinion. Again, I think things will definitely change as we start to see people at the high ends of Mythic Pluses and raids. You get to see the logs to see how they're doing. But again, Ellie, across the different areas of 1 to 3 targets, 5+ targets in PvP, I recommend it. Again, this is my damage breakdown for 1 target, max targets. And this is all my combinations, right? These are things you can see that people ask me on stream, and I started locking and loading what my recommendation is, or how I broke down all the Covenant selections. So that's it for Covenant abilities. I wanted to show you all of them just so you saw them. I didn't go over the Covenant specific ones, but I'm sure that those will be easy to kind of find. These are the Ellie specific ones and how they work. So again, my recommendation is Necrolord, but I encourage you again, check out all of them yourself. Make your own decision. If you like the way Night Fae looks, go for it. Why not? You can change very easily. The first time, switching back to a Covenant will take you 2 weeks of weekly quests, but if you do it on Monday and then you do it after a reset Tuesday, you can make it tricky fast, right? So that's that. The other thing you need to know about Covenants is you're going to build up renown with them. We're going to have resources in the Discord, like I mentioned. That's going to be where you can see some of these spreadsheets that we can go over, and we can talk about as well. But that's my recommendation. Let's go ahead and jump into the next topic, which is going to be the Soulbinds. Soulbinds are where you're going to be going, and you're going to be picking your path. Basically with your Covenant, you're going to unlock 3 different paths as you do the campaign. Those each kind of different unlock here, each node here will be unlocked as you gain renown. Renown is something you're going to be doing and grinding on a weekly basis for your and maxing that out at a weekly progression basis. Again, that's in the Discord. But this is going to be how you unlock all of these abilities. It's going to take you some weeks. I mean, I think it might be even months to get the full tree unlocked, but it is what it is. Now, this is my tree recommendation for Ellie for PvE. This ability, Lead by Example, it's a little bit hard to read here, so let's go into the spreadsheet. Like I mentioned, I have this guide in here, this Covenant Soulbinds. These are the different cool abilities you get per different tree. And so down here under Emini, Primordial Wave increases int by 5% and up to 4 nearby allies' primary stat by 2% for 7.5 seconds. You gain 2% additional int for each ally affected. So this could mean up to, 13% increased int. And that's going to be when you use Primordial Wave. So that's when you're going to be going for those Lava Burst bangs, right? So that's actually pretty cool. Now, again, these are all the different Covenants here. You can see them. There's some really interesting ones here for PvE in case you go Venthyr. Like I'm going to end up going Venthyr because I'm going to play Ellie, Enhance, and Resto. And that's the one I kind of think fits everything. And if you have any questions about multi-specking, let me know. But again, it's kind of the full breakdown. But if we look at those, again, recommended specs, and you'll see them over here in my recommendations, this is the one for PvE. And so this is the tree I recommend. It has that one, which I just mentioned. It gives you a buff of int whenever you use Primordial Wave. This is just a defensive one, giving you max health after using Fleshcraft. This is a Hearthstone, and this is kind of not really that great either. I mean, this is really the benefit of this tree, and not very many offensive kind of secondary stats here. Some defensive things that are available, but the conduits that I'm recommending are these Tumbling Waves, which is Primordial Wave, has a 20% chance to not incur a cooldown, which is awesome for LA because that means we're going to maybe be able to get even more Flame Shocks out there. And how I recommend you use this is if you put a Flame Shock on a target with Primordial Wave, and then it resets. You want to use a Lava Burst first, because that Lava Burst will then hit all the Flame Shock targets. Then you can put another Flame Shock out with Primordial Wave, and then use another Lava Burst, and that'll get another wave out. You want to stack those waves before you spread the Flame Shock, if that makes sense. Questions down in the comments, let me know. That's the one I go. I go this one for Heroism or any similar effects. Also get you 4 seconds of Spirit Walker's Grace. This is going to make your uptime better on boss fights. You're going to be able to move out of crap or keep going on boss fights in case certain mechanics happen, and you're going to be able to stay on the move. And you also have your normal Spirit Walker's Grace, right? And then I'm recommending Fire Ellie lasts 35% longer. Probably one of the best conduits for Ellie. Just a passive increased damage on that huge cooldown, which we know as Fire Ellie. We'd love that one. This is just Healing Surge increases by 15%. So that's it for PvE. I think this is, Necrolord's trees are kind of interesting. Some of the beneficial ones are really from certain areas without potency ones, but I do think as a Necrolord Ellie, you do need these 2 potency ones to really make it happen. Now, the PvP one that I recommend is the first guy. This one has a few different benefits. Number one is this. This says when you reduce below 50% health, Ooze courses over you, gaining you a shield of 50% of your max health for 10 seconds. Pretty nice. Every 30 seconds is not bad either. This is just something passive. And then this last one, which is while channeling Fleshcraft, which is the Necrolord overall ability, giving you a 20% shield. You are immune to crowd control, meaning if I'm about to get polymorph and I start casting Fleshcraft, it immunes the CC attempt. And you regenerate 2% HP per 1 second. If you finish the channel, you gain 4 seconds of crowd control immunity, during which you regenerate 2% health every 1.1 second. Another 8K. Another 8% health. Not bad. So this is why I choose this one, more defensive options. And I also choose, again, you see Tumbling Waves. Again, you see Call of Flame. 2 ones I really like, especially for Necrolord. You also see the self-healing one. You also see this one, which is new to you. Your Earth Elemental increases your max health by 20%. Another defensive option. Now, this is what I recommend for Ellie, especially because Ellie's going to be doing Lava Bursts everywhere. That's how we're going to do our max damage. And so, again, this is where you can peep out some of those other abilities and other trees. But that's that. Let's go ahead and jump into the conduits in general. What I've done in this tab of the spreadsheet is I've basically shown you my review of each of the different conduits. I've reviewed each of them saying, okay, here's what I think. Like, for example, high voltage, I say it's not that great. Why do I say that? Mainly because if you find yourself casting Lightning Bolt, then it could have more value for you. But I try not to do that, especially with Ice Fury builds right now. In the raid, which are prevalent, I don't use Lightning Bolt very much. So why would I go a Lightning Bolt conduit? Good example. Otherwise, the other conduits are Pyroclastic Shock. Earth Shock has a 15% chance to extend the duration of Flame Shock, may be useful in a funneling situation. The Council of Blood, boss fight and stuff like that, but otherwise it's RNG. And again, another RNG one, Shake the Foundation, casting Earthquake has a 10% chance to instantly cast a Chain Lightning, which seems like a nice Maelstrom generation thing, but 10% is pretty low. And what you got to remember is 2 things. Where do you get these from? Well, I have a link for you here. There's also a spreadsheet that will show it to you. We'll put that up in the Discord, again, in the resources section of the Tiqqle Discord. You'll see that. You'll be able to see, okay, here's where you get all the different conduits from. The world bosses, the different areas. You need to be aware of this because that's what you're going to have to be targeting to get those conduits. And again, legendary recipes are on here too, but we'll talk about that in a minute. The other thing you have to remember is ranking up conduits. You'll be ranking up conduits by doing that content again, doing those mythic pluses at a higher level, doing the whatever the content is that is on that other tab that shows you need to be doing that to be able to rank those puppies up. Now again, I have all the specs of Shaman in here reviewed. I also have these reviewed, which are the the Covenant specific potency conduits, which again, as we talked about, for Necrolord is quite good, quite useful. I've reviewed it for each of the specs. Again, the endurance ones, I've kind of reviewed all the ones here, and I've shown you all the ones so that you're just aware of what's out there. Because you have to remember, as you rank these up, certain things are going to become more viable. certain things more useful, more builds potentially viable. And that's what I'm really excited for, is as time goes on, that beneficial kind of bump to certain things. Hopefully there will be more builds and we'll be able to have a good time with that. So that's it for Conduits. Again, spreadsheet down below. Lastly, actually second to lastly, Legendaries. Legendaries, this is going to be a little dense, right? But I have videos going over each of them for each of the spec. But basically, here's the deal. For Ellie, each of them kind of have a place, but you have to remember, how do you get Legendaries? Well, number one, you need to be doing Torghast every week to max out that Soul Ash. Soul Ash is the limiting resource to create your Legendary. The other thing is, and you have to do it so many times over the week, the Torghast layers, you have to grind through them to get a certain amount of Soul Ash, and you can cap that out at a certain number a week. They keep changing it, but we'll see what it is on launch. The way you unlock Torghast is you have to get to 60, then you have to do the Maw. You have to unlock the Maw, short chain quest, you get into Torghast. Now, the other thing about Legendaries you have to remember is, how do you get them? Like, how do you get the recipe? Well, that's where this guide is going to be very valuable, the other spreadsheet I showed you, because, and a shout out to those creators, that is awesome. So useful, incredibly useful. And that's the key, right? How are you going to get Skybreakers, right? Well, Skybreakers actually drops from the last boss of Castle Nathria. Castle Nathria is not even out till the 8th, right? So, I mean, it's kind of a joke, right? So you don't want to stress out about getting your Legendaries. You want to make sure you get the Soul Ash. You want to make sure you unlock the quests, like all that stuff. But don't freak out. We're going to have to see what happens with tuning. We're going to have to wait until certain recipes become available. Certain recipes are from a world boss. Look at this one. This is my favorite Legendary for Ellie. Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence. It's from a world boss. That sucks, right? That is terrible. What if it doesn't show up for 5 weeks? It is what it is, right? Now, let's go ahead and just talk about them quickly, and then we'll move on. Elemental, again, I've rated these for SAB, in my opinion, for PvE, PvP. Skybreakers has been extremely popular for the raid because it allows you with funneling happening, which funneling means you're basically flame shocking many targets, but you're actually just single targeting down one. Why would you do that? Because more flame shocks out means more lava surge procs. It means more meatballs, baby. We like that spice. Now, this one is flame shocks duration. Flame Shock's damage over time, critical strikes reduce the cooldown of Storm Ellie, Fire Ellie by 1 second. The Flame Shock also has a 50% increased crit chance. That's pretty good, especially as you start to get geared out. You can focus on this. Maybe get to 75% crit rate of those Flame Shocks. That's a lot of reduction on Fire Ellie. Now, this is pretty nice. Your Flame Ellie uptime is going to be way higher. Your Flame Shocks are going to be doing more damage, so it's quite good. I'm ranking it as an S because I definitely think in the raid it's going to be killer. Now, Elemental Equilibrium I'm ranking as an S in PvP because this actually is procced by just using Echoing Shock or just using Elemental Blast. This is dealing direct fire, frost, nature damage within 10 seconds. Increases all damage dealt by 15%. Basically meaning if you use Echo, you get a 15% damage buff. It's like, wow, it's already awesome, and now they're making it even more awesome. I think it's not as... This Legendary isn't as fun as some of the others because it doesn't augment your playstyle. It just buffs you, right? So, but I'll take the damage. Anyway, that's from Torghast, and that wing of Torghast may not be available come Shadowlands, you know, for week 1. So again, don't stress out. Get that Soul Ash and take a breather, okay? Level your alts. The next one, Echo of the Great Sundering. This is whenever you cast Earth Shock, your next Earthquake will deal 175% increased damage. People are using this in Mythic Pluses and doing some pretty big damage. I would say it's a little clunky because you have to build up to an Earth Shock, and then you have to build up again to an Earthquake before you lose the buff and before the Maw Pack is dead, but it's still very good. I see a lot of people still using it. I personally am not as big of a fan of it. And it doesn't really have a place in PvP to me. My favorite Legendary, when you cast Earthshock, you gain Lava Surge and increase the damage of your Lava Burst by 20%. We love that. We love the meatballs. I love using this one. It's so fun to use. You get so many meatballs going, especially when you're playing Necrolord, you know? So it's awesome. And so that's kind of my review of the Legendaries. I recommend you get them in a similar order that I have here for like which ones are S. You're going to have to make your decision, and you're going to have to see which ones are available. But that's the deal with Legendaries. And again, I have all the Legendaries for all the specs. I have some of the general ones too, like Deeply Rooted Elements. I don't think that'll be really worth it. I don't think it's worth rushing this one either. Chains of Devastation, I think this could be okay in PvP, but not that great. Again, I say very similar things in my video about this, so you can peep that out if you want to hear more. And if you have any questions, again, Discord, Twitter, stream every day, right? You guys hit me up on there, and that's where we'll talk about it. Now for some of the build information. Now let me just first off and say, I want to give you some information because I've been asked these questions so many times. I'm going to give this to you as what I think. But again, these will be worked out when the sims are done and publicly available. They're not right now. Use raid bots, right? Sim your characters with the different gear sets, different stats, right? All that stuff. But here's my breakdown and here's my guesses at the stat priority. Basically, PvE, I think haste is going to be very nice. It's going to be great, especially with flame shock ticks and with casts, man. It's just is going to be... man, you do not, when you get into Shadowlands, you'll see your case is now puny. It's just puny. Then I think the haste, crit, verse, all similar, with the mastery being the lowest for Ellie. In PvP, I think verse will be critical. I think damage is going to be so high first season. After that, haste, again, for smoothness of play. With crit being almost as important, if not as important, because crit is now doing max, like crit is not being nerfed in PvP anymore, which makes it even better for Ellie. And then, yeah, so I just mentioned that as, you know, you should sim your own tune when the sims are available to see what it breaks down to for you. But that's that. That's for stats. Now, races, what do I think for PvE and PvP? I'm just going to make it simple, by the way, guys. I don't mean that you can't do different things for racials. I always recommend play what you want. Play what you want to look at every single day. The difference is not usually that big of a deal. But for PvE, Alliance, Dwarf for the 2% crit damage. Again, Horde, Tauren for the 2% crit damage. And then PvP, Alliance, Dwarf for the more defensive option. You could go Dark Iron as well. I think I might. And then Orc for Horde is the best. But again, I'm a Valkyra because the chat trolled me. Thanks, chat. So that's what I just want to recommend. You know, if people are asking me, I got to give you the best option because they always ask that. And the last thing I want to talk about is I have a trinket I really like, Soul Igniter, which is from the third boss of the raid. I don't know if it's the third one you'll kill in order, but the third one on the list. If this is where you activate it, it starts doing some health. It starts, you know, taking some of your HP, and then you reactivating will do a huge frontal cone, doing pretty good AoE damage, which is pretty awesome. And I like a lot for Mythic Plus and Raid, depending on the boss fight, if it's single target or not. Now for the talent builds, here are my talent builds. There's a few different options for raids. We've been testing out a bunch of them. I'm not sure which one is going to work out in the end. We'll have to see what happens with the Sims. But again, see which one you like the most. This is a particular build I really like for Mythic Plus if I'm not going Storm Elemental, because this allows me with the Windspeaker Legendary, it is just super smooth, and I get so many meatballs out. Why Elemental Blast? Because it generates so much Maelstrom. It really helps you get up to those Earth Shocks. Why Surge of Power? Because I can Earth Shock, Flame Shock, spread my Flame Shocks, or I can Earth Shock, Lava Burst to reduce the cooldown on Fire Ellie. Or with my Stormkeeper, Earth Shock, Lightning Bolt for additional single target damage. And then right now with the weirdness of Echoing Shock and Lightning Bolt from Stormkeeper, this is a more, reliable build for me. And again, this is one build. The other build that I would recommend is going, which I've done before, Echoing Shock, Ice Fury. This is another build. I've also seen people run it with Elemental Blast, but this is actually the build I think I ran. Yeah, this is the build I ran in the raid with this Legendary as well, because I really think Ice Fury is really great right now, especially if you're going single target, because it fills in a lot of the globals because our Lava Burst proc rate has gone down. So keep that in mind. So single target, this is one of my favorite builds. And again, I'll put the link down below. It shows all my builds that I recommend or I really like in single target AoE for all different specs of Shaman, because that's what we do here. And so this is another build. And then probably this is another build that people have been going. I've seen people run it with Aftershock as well, for the Storm Ellie build, right? I've also seen, so that's Storm Ellie build. The Legendary for this one, again, would be where is it? Let's go ahead and put that on really quick so you can just see the full package. Or Flame Shock, yep, here it is. This is the Skybreakers, right? Now, this is Flame Shock reducing Storm Ellie cooldown, right? Which is huge AoE. Storm Ellie is the way to do the fastest AoE possible. You could also go Echoing Shock for if you're going to be focusing on AoE. You can Echo Earthquakes, which is pretty good. I've also seen people go Ascendance, which is really interesting to me in single target builds. So something like this. I've seen people rock and roll this pretty hard in the Mythic logs, which is kind of cool to see them using Ascendance. I personally, I'm not sure. Again, single target, maybe it makes a lot of sense and it's easy to use, especially with Echoing Shock, not working with Stormkeeper right now. But those are some different builds that I recommend. Again, I haven't shown you one with the Earthquake Legendary. But again, for Earthquake Legendary, really what you want is a lot of Maelstrom generation. So I would either go, or you want to refund your Earthquakes, or your Earth Shock, so you can get an Earthquake out. So I would either go Aftershock or Elemental Blast here, because Echoing a buffed Earthquake will not, the second one won't be buffed. So keep that in mind. So that's what I'd probably recommend in that case. But those are my recommendations. These will change, guys, as the X-Pack comes out, as we do more testing with people that are actually geared correctly and actually do it, actually working things out. So make sure to check back to the guide, or to check at where my talent paint picture is that I'm putting together for you guys, because I want you guys to know and be able to see all the different specs that I've been running in PvE and PvP. Because in PvP, I'm recommending this spec, right? All this together. So with that being said, guys, and guys, don't forget to check out my dungeon guides, which I've set up, and I've put it in the link as well. This is a place that you can get 2-minute breakdowns for every single mythic dungeon, as well as a Google Doc where you can copy and paste in the strats for each fight into the into your party. Hope this helps you. I mean, this is it. This is us getting ready for Shadowlands. We've gone over the leveling spec, the conduits, the soulbinds, the covenant abilities, the stat priorities, the racials, or the races, the different builds that I'm playing with, and of course, builds are going to change a lot very quickly once sims are out. So I'm not spending too much time saying that this is the best. I'm just telling you which ones I've been enjoying the most. So with that being said, guys, that was the Elemental Shaman guide for Shadowlands. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Come by the stream for launch day. We have a lot of giveaways planned, thanks to a bunch of people, and that's it. So thank you so much to the Patreons. Thanks to the Twitch subs. Really appreciate the love, guys. You guys have been insane over the beta experience. We have been just grinding and testing and having a great time. So thank you all for joining in on that. And we'll see you guys in Shadowlands. Check the description for all the links. Love you guys, and I'm really excited to play this X-Pack with you guys. I hope you guys have a fun time leveling. We'll see you on stream every day, 9 p.m. Love you guys.